Hey y'all, Garrett from San Diego Drum Academy here. I want to talk to y'all about soloing today. Okay, so how do we solo? What is a drum solo? And how do we make it what we want it to be, right? That moment that we've envisioned of just shedding around the kit and everybody applauding and whistling and our playing and us feeling so special. How do we make that a reality, right? Well, first of all, practice, every day, at least 20 minutes a day, I would rather y'all practice 20 minutes a day every day as opposed to 2 hours a day every 3 days. You may get more practice if you do it a one-off bunch of time, but if you can just incorporate 20 minutes a day every day, that'll really help with that consistency. And if you can go more every 3 days, go for longer, but try to get that 20 minutes in every day. So practice is huge. But there are some specifics to soloing, right? And we don't need a huge repertoire of rudiments and tricks and licks and all this stuff to make a solo really, really cool, right? We can just play singles with good dynamics around the kit and have a decently sounding solo. We can do it, right? You don't have to have 10 years of experience, right? You just have to allow yourself to be creative. That's really it. But before I get into kind of demonstrating this, I want to talk to you all about a concept, right? So what I do with my students is I relate soloing to a book, okay? So what is at the beginning of every book? What's at the beginning? What's at the very front of each book? The title, right? The cover and the title. What does the title do? Well, the title gives us an idea of what the book is going to be about. Theoretically, that's what titles usually do, right? Okay. What's 12 to 20 big things that are inside of the book? Chapters. What do chapters do? They break up the book into certain parts that we can conceptualize, and little pieces to the overall puzzle, right? Big parts to the puzzle. And then what's inside of those chapters? Pages. It's on the pages, paragraphs. Paragraphs, words, right? We don't need to get any smaller than words here. So a rudiment, like a flam or a paradiddle or a double stroke roll, those are words, okay? For a paragraph, maybe we're just doing a couple paradiddles around the kit, a couple flams, maybe a couple triplet flams or what have you, okay? So a page, maybe we're, doing a little groove on the ride during the solo. Maybe we kind of exit the solo and reference the groove for a moment during the solo, right? And then for a chapter, maybe we're going to the different instruments, maybe we start out on the snare for the first chapter, and then we expand to the toms and we incorporate the hi-hat, maybe just keeping time, opening and closing. And then the next chapter, we're going to that groove outside of the solo. Next chapter, we're adding some cymbals, and then before you know it, it's the big finale, the conclusion, right? The end of the book. At the beginning, we have the title. We're stating what this solo is going to be all about. Let me demonstrate. So, the specific groove right here, not super important, not what I want to focus on really at all. Just the solo, okay? So if we're doing a groove, right, that'll be the groove, and then we'll go into the solo. Right? So that will be the title of the solo. it says, hey, I'm going to make a solo here. It's going to be a traditional solo with the snare drum roll, with the kick behind it. Kind of sounds like a military, like old school. Marching type groove, and that kind of tells you what the rest of the solo is going to be like, right? And throughout the solo, I want to kind of keep the essence of the groove alive. You know, you don't have to. There's no rules, right? These sticks are paintbrushes. This is our canvas, right? You're free to paint however you want to. There's no rules to any of this stuff, you know? So you can have fun with it how you want to do it, right? Okay, so we'll go to the groove. Notice as soon as I go to that snare part right after that groove, I'm accenting where those hits were on the groove. Now I start to incorporate the tom. Alright, now I've added another chapter. I've gone to the cymbals. Now I'm going to go back into the groove. Right, and then referencing that groove during the cymbal chapter, you know, you're playing on the bell pattern, and then you have the big ending. Well, if I don't stop now, I'm just going to make you guys watch me improvise over the drum kit. So, soloing. Have fun with it. Think of it like a book. The chapter at the beginning, and then building that solo throughout. Keeping true to the tune, you know. If you're playing some jazz fusion stuff, and you want to go crazy, and you know, you're playing say you're playing like a rock type groove, a rock tune, standard classic rock tune, right? I know I just said jazz fusion, but imagine that you're doing some type of like simple groove, and then you go super out there and you do this reggae or Afro-Cuban or Latin type solo, right? Well, that's cool. I would find that interesting, you know, but does it make sense for the tune? So going back to serving the song, right? Your solo, everything should serve the song. You know, it really should. So if you're playing a simple rock groove, you don't need to be going crazy during that solo. Just a tasty little couple extra notes, you know, not a 64 bar solo or anything like that. But if you're doing a jazz fusion thing, you know, it's time to go off, you know, so appropriate for our genre too. So soloing like a book. You got your title, chapters, pages, paragraphs, and words. It all comes together. The end, that big conclusion. So, food for thought. Think about it. If you guys have any questions, check us out at SanDiegoDrumAcademy.com. Peace, y'all.